always considered myself a man grounded in logic and reason. Ghost stories, urban legends, and haunted houses were just tales to scare children around a campfire. I never believed in the supernatural until the night that changed everything. My friend Jake had this idea to get away from the city for a weekend, somewhere remote, quiet, and off the map. He mentioned an old town, barely a dot on any modern map, where time seemed to have paused. The kind of place that people avoid after dark, for reasons whispered only behind closed doors. At the edge of that town stood a house, not just any house, an old, rotting structure with boarded up windows, a sagging roof, and a garden overrun by weeds. Locals called it the Hollow House. The stories about it were Jake was all for testing the legend. "Let's go in at midnight," he said, grinning. "We'll film it, maybe stream it live. It'll be fun." I hesitated. There was something about that house, something that didn't sit right. But I didn't want to seem like a coward, so we went. The night was thick with fog, and the moon hung low, casting eerie shadows over the decaying facade. As we approached, the door creaked open, as if inviting us in. The air inside was stale, heavy with dust and the scent of something long dead. We moved cautiously, flashlights piercing the darkness. Floorboards creaked beneath our steps, and faded wallpaper peeled in long strips. In a corner lay a broken doll, its glassy eyes staring blankly. Jake laughed nervously. "See? It's just an old house." So many end insects. But I felt the walls watching us, the silence pressing in. We found a faded photograph on the wall. The faces were blurred, as if erased by time. Beneath it, a plaque read, "Welcome home." A chill ran down my spine. Upstairs, we found a note scrawled hastily. "If you're reading this, you're next. The house remembers. It takes. It waits." We wanted to leave, but curiosity pushed us further, into the attic. The stairs groaned under our weight. The attic was filled with forgotten toys, all staring with cracked eyes. Then I saw something that stopped my heart. A piece of paper pinned to the wall. My name, written in my handwriting. I had never seen it before. Next to it, a Polaroid photo of me standing outside the house. The image was warm to the touch. Suddenly, the house shifted. Doors vanished, windows sealed shut, and a whisper echoed. "The last person who entered this house was you." Panic surged through me like electricity. I grabbed Jake's arm, my voice shaking. "We need to get out. Now." He nodded, swallowing his fear, and we dashed toward the attic stairs. But as we reached the bottom, the floor beneath us trembled. The walls seemed to close in, narrowing the space until we were trapped in a shrinking cage. I slammed my shoulder against the nearest wall, but it didn't budge. The whisper returned, this time louder and more insistent. You cannot leave. You belong. Cold fingers of dread curled around my heart. I felt the house's presence, a malevolent intelligence, ancient and hungry. Desperate, I looked for anything that could help. On the attic floor lay a rusted key. I snatched it up, hoping it might unlock a door or window. Suddenly, the house groaned. A hidden door swung open, revealing a narrow passage descending into darkness. With no other option, we stepped inside. The air grew colder with each step. Faint whispers echoed from the shadows, voices calling our names, pleading, warning. At the end of the passage, we found a small room, bare except for a dusty mirror hanging on the wall. I approached it, and the glass rippled like water. Suddenly, a face stared back. My own, but twisted in terror. The whisper turned into a scream. You are the last. The house remembers. You are never leaving. I stumbled back, heart pounding. Jake grabbed my hand, pulling me away from the mirror. We ran blindly through the dark tunnels, the walls shifting behind us, chasing, trapping. Then, just as hope was fading, a faint light appeared. The front door cracked open. We sprinted through it, bursting into the night air, gasping for breath. Behind us, the house stood silent, its secrets safe for now. But I knew, deep down, it was waiting for the next visitor to cross its threshold. That night, back at the motel, sleep refused to come. The shadows from the house haunted every corner of my mind. I kept replaying the events, how the walls seemed alive, how the mirror showed that twisted version of myself. Jake tried to brush it off. It was just your imagination, he said. But I saw the fear in his eyes. We both knew something had changed. Over the next days, strange things started happening. My reflection sometimes lagged behind my movements, as if it had a will of its own. Objects in my apartment shifted places overnight. Whispers echoed faintly when I was alone. I researched the hollow house, looking for any clues. The town's history was patchy, but I found old newspaper articles about disappearances linked to that very place. People vanished, never to be seen again. One article mentioned a family who had lived there long ago. They were obsessed with dark rituals, attempting to trap souls inside the house to gain immortality. Suddenly, it made sense. The house wasn't just a building, it was a trap, a prison for those who dared enter. Days turned into weeks, and the feeling of being watched grew stronger. I started to question my sanity. One night, I caught a glimpse of a shadowy figure in the corner of my room. It whispered my name and vanished. That's when I realized the house had followed me home. I couldn't ignore it any longer. I had to find a way to break free from the house's grip. I remembered the key from the attic, the one I'd snatched up before escaping. Maybe it held the secret. I dug through my backpack and pulled it out. The metal was cold and strangely heavy, almost pulsing with energy. I held it tightly, feeling a surge of both fear and hope. That night, I decided to return to the town, alone this time. I needed answers, no matter the cost. The hollow house loomed ahead, more menacing than ever under the pale moonlight. The air was thick with silence, no creaks, no whispers. I stepped inside. The door closed behind me with a heavy thud. The house was empty, but the atmosphere was electric. I followed a faint glow leading me to the basement. The walls here were lined with strange symbols carved deep into the stone. In the center of the room lay a dusty book bound in leather. I opened it carefully. The pages were filled with incantations and warnings. One passage caught my eye. To break the house's curse, one must confront the mirror of souls and accept the darkness within. I understood then what I had to do. Heart pounding, I made my way back upstairs to the attic. The mirror awaited me, its surface dark and still. The room seemed colder, shadows stretching longer than before. I stared into the glass. Slowly, my reflection morphed, twisting into every fear I'd ever had. Loneliness, failure, darkness consuming me. But then a new voice echoed inside my head, calm and steady. Accept it. Embrace your shadow. I hesitated, but something deep inside compelled me to do just that. I reached out and touched the cold glass. Suddenly, the room spun wildly. The house groaned as if alive, resisting my act. Visions flashed before my eyes, trapped souls screaming silently, lost in endless corridors. I took a deep breath and whispered, I accept the darkness inside me. I am not afraid. The mirror shattered, sending shards glimmering like stars across the floor. The house shook violently. then fell silent. The heavy pressure lifted from my chest. I ran toward the front door. It creaked open easily this time. Outside, the cool night air felt like freedom. I looked back once. The hollow house stood still, no longer breathing, no longer alive. Days passed, and the nightmare seemed to fade. I tried to believe it was finally over. But some things don't just disappear. One evening, as I sat alone, my phone buzzed. A message appeared on the screen. No sender, just a single line. The last person who entered this house was you. My blood ran cold. I stared at the message, trembling. Was the house reaching out again? Had I really escaped? Or was I still trapped in its web? The shadows in my room deepened, and I felt a familiar chill. I knew one thing for sure. The Hollow House never forgets, and I was still its prisoner. Sleep became a stranger. Every night I dreamed of that house, its creaking floors, whispering walls, and the endless maze of shadowy corridors. I would wake up drenched in sweat, heart racing, the same chilling message echoing in my mind. I tried to reach out for help, but every attempt ended in failure. Friends stopped answering, calls dropped mysteriously, and my online presence vanished without explanation. It was as if the house was erasing me from the world, removing every thread of connection. One night, I received another message, this time a photo. It showed me standing right outside the Hollow House, but the date was a month from now. I realized then that time itself had bent, trapped by the house's dark power. Desperation turned to dread. I was no longer just a victim. I was part of the house's curse, its endless story. And the days blurred together, reality slipping through my fingers like smoke. I couldn't tell if I was awake or still caught in some nightmare spun by the house. The messages kept coming, cryptic warnings, eerie photos, and once, a video of myself asleep, eyes wide open, but frozen in time. I knew the house was watching, waiting for me to break. One evening, I decided to confront it head on. I drove back to the town, to the place I had tried to escape. The Hollow House stood before me, unchanged, as if mocking my fear. I stepped inside, this time without the key, without hope. Only the burning need to end this. The walls whispered secrets in a language I almost understood. Shadows twisted into faces, trapped souls begging for release. In the basement, I found the book again. This time, The final incantation was clear. To free yourself, sacrifice what you love most. I stood in the dim basement, the heavy air pressing down on me. The words from the book echoed in my mind, haunting and final. What did it mean to sacrifice what I loved most? Was it a person, a memory, or something deeper? Suddenly, a cold voice whispered from the shadows. Are you ready to lose everything? I swallowed hard. I thought of Jake, my only friend, and the fleeting moments of happiness I still clung to. Could I really give him up? Could I give up hope? The house seemed to pulse with expectation. Shadows stretched toward me, cold and hungry. I closed my eyes and whispered, I give up what I love most. Take it and release me. A sudden calm washed over me. The walls trembled and the shadows recoiled, shrinking back into the corners. Light pierced through the darkness, flooding the room with warmth for the first time. I opened my eyes to see the house dissolving, walls crumbling, floors cracking, and the sinister presence fading like smoke in the wind. I ran outside into the fresh air, lungs filling with freedom. The curse was broken. But as I turned away, a final whisper brushed my ear. We will meet again. Weeks passed since that night. The hollow house was gone, reduced to rubble and ash. The town seemed to breathe easier, as if a dark cloud had lifted. I tried to rebuild my life, to forget the horror I had endured. But the memories lingered. The mirror, the whispers, the shadows that never quite left. Sometimes, when the night is still, I feel a cold breeze brush my skin, and a faint voice calls my name. I don't know if the curse truly ended, or if it's waiting, patient and eternal. But one thing is certain. Some houses are better left alone, and some stories are never truly finished.